Hi everyone, it's Delano Hunter, Director of the DC Department of General Services, and this is truly a momentous day in Ward 5. Guess what? We just cut the ribbon on the brand new Reservoir Park Recreation Center. Now, there are over 360 active capital projects, some large, some small, all are special in their own right, but this is truly a one of one. I want to thank everybody that helped to make today possible, starting with our Mayor Muriel Bowser. And we're going to hear more about this fantastic project from some key players that helped make this happen.
This site represents bringing underutilized land into a beautiful, amenity-rich, productive use. It will create jobs, affordable housing, new amenities, a new green space, and Nina, a new grocery store, because we're working on that every single day. But I also want to mention the Department of General Services, which is the real estate arm of DC government, because this is not an easy project, but DGS will deliver.
I also want to acknowledge Director Hunter at DGS. I leaned over and said, was this delivered on time? And he said, not only on time, but in budget. And so that is a big feat, and I want to thank you for your hard work. It takes a community for us to deliver these types of projects.
It takes resilience, it takes tenure, and it's no mistake. We're not here by osmosis. It's because of the mayor, because of the council, because of all of the sung and unsung heroes that help make today possible. So give yourselves a hand. Also, this has been a catalyst for economic development, so it's also worth highlighting that this project has contributed close to $35 million to certified business enterprises here in the district.
Hi, I'm Teal Stucker with the Office of the Mayor for Planning and Economic Development. I've been working with DGS on this project for the last 10 years. It's been an amazing partnership with DGS. They've done an amazing job with historic preservation, building the community center, the community to deliver a wonderful resource for Ward 5 and district residents.
Hi, my name is Colleen Cahill. I'm with Kramer Consulting. I'm a consultant for DGS. Been working on the McMillan project for 9 years now, and we have had our grant opening today. It's been such an honor to work with the fantastic team of designers, builders, DEMPED, DPR, all of our agency partners to actually come to fruition on this amazing project.
Autoclave bit.
Oh, this is great. We live just a few blocks away. As she said, we've been driving by this place for
14 years.
14 years, and it's been nothing, and now it's an awesome new thing. Excited about the pool. Excited about just having something to walk to that's not, you know, not like the rest of the city. So we love it. It's great.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome to the People's Voice DC. This is your host, Pastor Mike, along with my co-host, the founder of DC for Reasonable Development, and former council and mayoral candidate, Chris Otten. We are live with a guest today. Happy to have a father of two, candidate for DC Council at Large Independent candidate, may I say, a sixth generational Washingtonian, a husband, a realtor, founder of Bike to the Beach, and an ANC advisory neighborhood commissioner. Welcome to our show, Kevin.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Michael, and Chris as well. It is great to be here, and I'm excited to chat about, the video we saw, but more about, you said DC for reasonable development, things like that. I think as I kind of in the lead up here, as I've posted a few messages on social, my aim today is to have a real conversation to showcase that, Chris and I, for example, we're kind of on opposite ends of this McMillan development, but that doesn't mean that in the relations that we had, that they were anything more than playful. Certain moments in time cement for you, a passing glance or something there. And for Chris, I will always remember being on First Street and Chris is driving by and he rolls down his window. It was right by the filtration plant. And he said, "It's never going to happen." And I was like, "Well, think about that." I respect Chris immensely for the work that he does. And I'm sorry if I'm kind of dragging on here. But in listening to you guys on your previous podcast, I'm in agreement with so much of what you're working on. And I'm here to develop that relationship because the knowledge that both of you bring to the table is something that, we all need. I'm trying to organize a meeting on this Better Bus Plan, and WMATA right now is not showing up. DC Water just gave me a call that they're not showing up, and that's a problem we have in this city, right? Like, just show up, have a conversation. We might disagree, but you might learn something too.
So speaking of showing up, I mean, this McMillan project, this DC Reservoir project, it had to take it took over a decade. It was a long time in the making, and it took a lot of people to show up in order for it to take place.
Right, 37 years.
37. Yeah, thank you for having the exact number.
Yeah, it was decommissioned in 86. It was granted to DC in 87. And because of our community and the pushback, it's not a strip mall. It's not a prison. It's not filled with just giant high rises. And there's public land and public space. I understand that it's not what everybody is looking for. And I understand what other people were looking for. I'm sorry that for people that didn't get exactly what they want, that they didn't, but hopefully, at least to some degree, they can enjoy the amenities that we did get.
You know what struck me about that video? The smiling faces and the scanning of the horizon, because there's still no giant tall buildings there yet. That could have happened 25 years ago. That could have happened 20 years ago. That could have happened 10 years ago. That could have happened 5 years ago. If we were talking about, a green escarpment that people could enjoy and walk to and be part of, that all could have happened. The reason why it took 37 years and all these iterations is because powers that be in this city that want to land in such a way to make it that it has to be some kind of giveaway of public land. It has to be something tied to economic development. They don't see parks as economic development. They don't see reusing historic places as economic development. The only thing they see as economic development is housing and these big high rises. And so that's why it took as long as it did to just get what that little piece we saw today. And that piece is going to be shadowed buy big buildings that we don't own anymore, that have poor doors, that have no truly affordable housing for families in it, will have exacerbated the heat island effect for that whole area. Childhood asthma in that area, already some of the highest in DC. It's only going to skyrocket because of the traffic. They've never did environmental impact studies on it. That's what we've waited for. That's what we're going to get, and it's a complete giveaway. We're paying the developers to take the land from us. Not only that, I'm sort of shocked by, we're about to go into a climate catastrophe here. And, Kevin, to your points, we are seeing DDOT herky-jerk bike lanes and safe lanes issues up and down Connecticut Ave. They're saying they're going to do this, then they do this at the last minute, then they say this. And if we can't get bike lanes right, how are we going? I mean, to me, it's sort of like a shock that we're going to be walking into very perilous times, it seems. All the science I'm seeing where drought is going to be a real big issue. We have 3 days emergency water supply in this city.
That's a contrast that you just painted, though. If we can't get bike lanes right, as a city, how are we going to get these other things right? And I'm not saying the answer is to hide it or hand it over to private developers, right? They might do a little bit of a better job than our city's doing right now. I'm not saying that is the way it should be, but currently I don't think those buildings are necessarily going to be towering. But one of the reasons I'm here is we talk about affordability, right? We're still working on this. Right? This isn't; those parts aren't done. And when I listen to you speak and your knowledge on affordable housing, it is far superior than mine right now. And being able to pick up the phone and talk to you and say, here are the numbers and here's what we're working on. For example, right now there's, I think 80 or 90, you probably know the exact number of senior, right?
Yeah. And when you look at that number,
right,
there's, I think, I don't know, 65 to 80. They're for grandma and grandpa making $65,000 to $70,000 a year.
Right. So
whose grandma is making $60,000 a year? I'm sort of shocked by that.
Can we get it higher? Can we get 120, 130 of these? Or at the same time, can we figure out a percentage that makes sense for the lower threshold on the price point? And then we also have to look at the other affordable housing that's going to be part of it too. And right now is the exact perfect time to really, obviously we could have been doing this before, but now it's still a good time to dig in on that. And I can do that in part for a few months and one of my
Is there somebody on the line, Michael? I'm just curious. I'm hearing some kind of noise.
I'm checking. There isn't anyone else on the line right now. There are viewers, but no one on the line. I'm curious as to know, because you're running for at large. So I'm curious to know. It sounds like you consider this, Mr. Kevin, as a success. But I'm curious to know your thoughts and what you may have learned from this project, that what went wrong and what you learned, how you learned that it went wrong, and how would you change it. In Ward 7, we have a few things that we're looking at. Particularly of interest to me is the Fletcher Johnson project and that redevelopment. And so I don't want us to keep making the same mistakes in our city, and it seems like we do, especially when it comes to redeveloping and including, as we should say now, deeply affordable housing. So I'm just curious to see what do you think could have been done better, and what would you include or push to include in future projects?
I mean, I think Chris really spoke to it, right? And it's hard to, it's not just legislation, right? It's not just words, it's community being involved and brought into the conversation, and not just because. And I see that might be happening in some other things I'm working on right now. If you get a phone call and somebody doesn't want to show up to a community meeting that's specifically discussing a concern that you have, that you get some lead-in time, that you get a council member to come and attend, that you get representatives from the mayor's office to attend, VDOT to attend. If they don't want to show up, you've got hundreds of employees, just send somebody, okay? Just send somebody. Yeah, we are getting a little bit of feedback. But basically, the thing that I think, you can't just put X's and O's on the thing that went wrong. The thing that went wrong was mostly that things were tried to be shoved down the throat of the community. Fortunately, the community was super strong. The community got to a place where a lot of community members were finally kind of okay with what was presented. But it took, I moved into the neighborhood. I grew up outside of Bloomingdale. I went to Gonzaga down the street, but I wasn't in Bloomingdale. I was all over the city before. But in 2019, I moved from over on 11th and T over to Bloomingdale, and that's when I really got involved. So this battle had been going on since '87. In 2019, I really got tremendously involved in it. And by that time, I think, as of 2016, I don't think there were many changes that were made. It was just still a few lawsuits were filed. There were 16 lawsuits that were filed. And Chris, you could correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think it was 16 throughout the entire process. But that's a long, rambling, and somewhat incoherent answer to a very simplified thing, which is the community's voice needs to be heard, and the community's voice needs to be acted upon. And that doesn't mean that what the community wants needs to be done verbatim, but there needs to be a little bit more bend than there has been. And I think people are frustrated with that, and they're frustrated with that on many different levels.
Yeah, there was a Washington City paper survey done in 2014 of the community's wishes that mimicked all of the talking sessions with OP, from 2004 to 2014. It was always, we want the vast majority of this site to stay green. We want our Central Park in an area that has some of the highest, what we talked about, sort of air pollution, heat island indexing, tens of thousands of cars, right, that go by there daily, maybe less so now, but because of COVID. But basically,
I don't have studies, but we do have a lot of green space. Or we're surrounded on three sides by more green space than almost anywhere other than people are surrounded by Rock Creek. But I haven't seen this study, so you could very well.
We've looked at the heat island maps, I don't know how many times, and we've had to find those.
Right.
And it's a terribly hot area, that corridor of North Capitol Street and Michigan, right? And because you have all the parking lots in the hospitals just north of there.
Yeah, that's
and then all the cars, and then of course, you can count the green spaces, the cemetery nearby, but in terms of a use,
have something to do with that though, because you had 3 feet of topsoil, right, as you know, and then underneath that you had concrete catacombs throughout. So I don't know if that was also part of the issue, but. Because what you're saying, North Capitol, right? So North Capitol is going to be part of it. The hospitals are a big part of it. We have to do something about the layout over there with all these just open one level concrete and asphalt parking lots. It's absolutely ridiculous. I can't even walk over there.
Yeah.
It's.
I mean, well, and that's the thing, and that's the. I mean, in terms of failures for me and the people I worked with, and we worked hard. I mean, you can't. I don't remember 16 lawsuits, but I remember the few I was part of. Like, you cannot present things to a judge in a haphazard, willy-nilly sort of way. Like, we had to do the research, we had to find the facts. I mean, the fact of the matter always led us to, wait, where is the Office of Planning? Where's the planning? Oh, wait, where's DemPed on this? Oh, they just want to make deals. In fact, you want to talk about talking to us? They hired a press relations firm out of Baltimore called Fontaine. We only got this info through FOIA, that Kirby Vining won through FOIA, and they were hired by the city, taxpayer dollars, and we got their pro forma, and there was a couple of points that stood out. There was to neutralize public opposition and give cover to elected public officials. So, I mean, that's from the start, right? You talked about the mistakes at the start. It's like, come to the community. They were actively doing everything. They knew the community did not want this because of all the sessions and surveys leading up to 2014 saying we want most of this site to be green. I wouldn't call these catacombs per se. They were water cisterns, right? These were water filtration cells, and it could store hundreds of millions of gallons of water, filter it without electricity, right? And in the nation's capital, where you have 3 days emergency water supply, we have some points, like it was just about 3 months ago, the Potomac Aqueduct was actually, they were worried about it because it was the level was actually getting below the pipe inlet, which you could see up at Del Carlia, a little bit north of there. It was actually getting up close to not actually filling the pipe that actually feeds our water supply. To me, when I think about condos replacing such a valuable asset as a giant water cistern, I'm sort of left scratching my head going, what are we planning for? Because then when you start looking at the traffic impacts, we found in the research that the Office of Planning, the Department of Energy and Environment, did not look at impacts, the amount of buses that will have to serve this site on a daily basis. And this will probably feed right into your concerns right now, Kevin. It's astronomical, the amount of buses they're expecting to feed this site. And they said, because the buses will not be going along the new little streets that they're building within, the half street and all of these things that they're building within the site, because they're not going in there, they don't have to look at those impacts. To me, it was just a shocker at all levels, from paying outside firms to neutralize us, to looking at the actual planning and the complete lack therein in terms of traffic and environment, to the abysmal affordability levels that, by the way, disappear in 15 years after being built. The covenant only lasts 15 years, and then it goes to market rate for grandma and grandpa. And so I think it's like one of the worst deals in DC's history in terms of its location and value and the asset that was there. I like this park. I think it's beautiful. Have you noticed the grass is already dried out and dead?
They were working on it up until the end, right? So literally
water.
I can look at it. I've looked at it every day for 5 years straight, pretty much. They had equipment. They had equipment on top of that park when they were working on the fountain. They needed to clear out rocks. They didn't. They wanted to get it open, I think, for summer, and because of that, the grass wasn't quite ready. So we're working on that. It was so lovely last night with my kids. It was great. But I think to a couple of those points, those are valid concerns that people have had. Neutralizing public opposition is certainly not the right language. I would go more with listening and attempting to address public comment and concerns, which you could also take somebody like yourself and Kirby and other groups who are avidly researching this issue. Sometimes the narrative was a little off with the whole park prior and that, but you've addressed it in a very realistic and factual way. But the cisterns as well, we're looking at, this was decommissioned in 1986 because it couldn't, to my understanding, keep up with the capacity needed for the water supply for the city. So they had to switch to chemical filtration to up that capacity. I could be wrong on that. But when I look across on the federal side, there's storage tanks right across that I'm sure you're aware of. Plus there's a lot of additional space, which I'm trying to open up, that if they did want to, on the federal land, add additional places for water storage, they do have substantial room for it. But maybe you can help me out. I've been trying to get that fence changed and trying to get the fence across the Children's moved back. I got the congresswoman to write a letter saying, let's move this fence back on that knoll so those kids and children who are in a concrete jungle in there could walk outside, and their parents who are going through the most emotional, terrible struggles half the time could go get a breath of fresh air and not have a cloud of cigarette smoke next to them. Because it's just like a little tiny lobby outside. But I get the traffic impact. But at the same time, if we're looking at, 146 townhomes is a lot, right? But if we go block by block, it's essentially, what is it? 2 additional blocks you're just adding on to a strip that already has block after block after block after block of that. So how much additional stress are we really putting? Sure, the grocery store will be stressed, the restaurants, the retail, the office space, that will be additional stress. And what I'm looking at is just, if it's already stressed to the max, anything additional is not necessarily good. But if we're talking about a drastic impact, what percentage are we really looking at an increase? And to your point about not getting information back, we've been requesting an updated traffic study for quite some time now.
Yeah, all of the intersections around that site are already at F, failing, according to their own expert study. That was the city's own study. So I'm seeing something up here. Michael, is there any chance we could play the video link that I sent to you? I just want to do that while we were talking about water and the cisterns. I thought DC Water put out a cool video about 10 years ago, how they repurposed one of the water cells to actually retain some stormwater management water. And I just think it's important because it showed, for me, that these cells, one of the things that we kept hearing from the Office of Planning is if people go on that site and play soccer right now, it could collapse. It was sort of a joke. We played soccer on there. We have video of us playing soccer on the field.
I don't know if I call that soccer. That was around 2,500 manholes, but it was you were on top of the site running around.
Did you already load it up? Did you load the video?
So
I sent you the link, but I guess I could share it.
Just to note too, while we're looking for this,
you can go to the. I'm sorry, Kevin. You can go to the link because I didn't get it until we almost started the show. But you can go to the link and we can share the screen.
Or you can put it. You can put it in the chat as well.
Okay.
Yeah, you can put it in the chat as well.
All right, let me do that. I don't know how to share it at this point, but I'm gonna just grab the link and put it in the chat.
But people might.
I do want to mention to our DC resident, we do have a missing, critically missing person, Loraya Brown. She's missing. She's been missing starting today from Southeast. So this missing flyer is post it on all of our social media. Please share it if you know something. As our Councilmember Trey Young White always says, do something. And of course, say something. So the phone numbers are on the flyer, but we do have one of our young ladies missing. And we are asking that all of the public chip in and help. If you know something, again, please call, please say something, and please do something.
Thank you. I did just want to note one thing too before the video goes on. To Chris's point, that we're talking about the northeastern portion there that's bordered by North Capitol and Michigan. That cell was just it's just in the process now of the completion of DC Water's use for it. It's being transferred over to DGS, and there will be community input on what's going on with that. People will probably not like that I'm giving you the heads up on that right now, but when you talk about, all's not lost yet if we're talking about that that little piece of land. And
I hit play.
Just hit play.
The century-old McMillan Sand Filtration Site, with its 20 underground cells, once served an important function, purifying drinking water for the District of Columbia.
The water would come in, filter down through the sand, get collected, and then distributed to the residents to drink.
It hasn't done that in a long time. The site was decommissioned in 1986, but still, it has stood the test of time.
Yeah, it's fascinating as an engineer to go in and see the results of the construction that was done, over 100 years ago. These things were built in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and to see that the condition that they're in now, those fellows back in the day knew what they were doing.
Kevin Williams is the project manager for DC Water, which is now repurposing the McMillan site for another important job. One of the cells, cell number 14, will be used to store stormwater during severe rains to prevent it from reaching the flood-prone neighborhoods of Bloomingdale and LaDroit Park.
And the cell will hold about 3 million gallons, so that's 3 million gallons that won't hit Bloomingdale all at one time when the storm hits.
Crews have already removed the tons of sand that covered the floor of cell 14. They've also dug down 25 feet below North Capitol Street to reach an existing storm sewer.
Standing here in the middle of North Capitol Street, which as you can see by the vehicles around us is a pretty high trafficked road. So we're trying to get in and out of here as quickly as possible. When you look down at the bottom of the hole, you can see the existing North Capitol storm sewer. The very large pipe runs right down the middle of it.
Now work is underway to connect the storm sewer with cell 14 through another pipe.
I think you saw the smaller pipe in the structure out there. It runs all the way through here. That's the diversion sewer, we call it. And from there, it'll come into this sump, and then it'll just flow up into the cell.
A gate will redirect storm water into the cell until it's at capacity, filling every nook and cranny with water. Then, when the rains subside, the water will drain back out the same way it came in and will be conveyed through the sewer system to be treated at Blue Plains. For more information about this project and other efforts to control flooding, visit dcwater.com/Bloomingdale.
All right. Yeah, I guess I wanted to play that one to show sort of the waterworks marvel that was there, and two, to kind of, part of as people who were trying to protect this site, one of the things that we marveled at is just the complete fabrications coming from government officials to sell their deal. Like this site is not savable. It's not practical to save it. And we had engineers, we had people designing what you could actually turn that underground space into, as far as music, music venues, cafe, all sorts of things that could also then be packed up if, we hit a point in time where we're in a major drought and the city is thirsty and we can fill it with water, like they did with the stormwater. we could fill it with clean water. I think that's going to be a real issue. I'm predicting that for us pretty soon.
On what time frame?
I would say in the next 10 years, we're going to see serious water issues for the district. And we already went through a lot of it with the pipes, the leaded pipes, and the health hazards that caused for so many of our residents 20 years ago that we're still sort of digging literally out of. But I think we're going to see climate change in a very real way in DC, and that was sort of a key thing for me when I was sort of trying to protect the site, was that that we shouldn't be giving away these sort of resources, these assets that could helps make us more resilient as a city, especially. And the other irony to me was we're going to drop on the top end of the site where the cells were the best. That's why WASA took that first cell on the top corner closest to North Cap in Michigan. Those cells were in the best shape. They were not kind of harmed in any way over the years. And now it's just going to be dug out, most of it except for that one cell that we just saw in the video. And a giant medical facility is going to be.
Well, it's already been dug out.
Yeah, so we're going to put a giant medical facility there, across the street from 3 others, while east of the river, is begging for healthcare services.
It's not the same type of medical facility. It's going to be.
We don't know what it's going to be. We don't know what it's going to be. That's part of the problem.
Primary care doctor, your dentist, maybe some. If Children's Hospital needs more space for some specific types of practitioners, then they'd have it. I don't know. Is it the greatest use of the space? Maybe they don't need all of that, but I would like to be able to walk to a dentist or a primary care doctor. And although we do have those hospitals, those are not spaces for that.
I mean, there's plenty of dentists and primary care doctors on Georgia Avenue. I guess all I'm saying is that it points to the lack of planning. You know what I'm saying? It's sort of like we have, and also the sort of the discrimination in planning, right? I mean, we have folks in Ward 7 and 8 who need healthcare services,
right?
And yet they're going to put this here.
Well, I don't think we always put those comparisons. We need to do both, right? So if we're doing one, doesn't mean because we're doing that one, we're not doing the other. It seems like we just need to do the other as well. We keep putting wedges between different wards because we're blaming people, individual people and residents, and pitting Ward 5 versus Ward 7 and Ward 1 versus Ward 8 and 6.
Well, the problem there is, though, we don't have unlimited money.
Right? Yeah, no, you're right. They do need attention. But I think there's a way to deliver the message that, some people, when you say the word climate change, and we're talking about the drought, there's certain people that are unable to hear that word and then listen to the next 3 sentences or paragraph after it. So, that's what I had to train myself to be able to do. Things.
So I need to interject right there, because you're running for a position on the council at an at-large seat, and I believe this would be replacing possibly Christina Henderson.
Robert White and Christina Henderson are the only.
Oh, Robert White, yeah.
And Patricia, as
oh yeah, she is running, yeah.
And then there's one
other. But my question is this: Ward 7, our Dem nominee just became the Democratic nominee, Wendell Felder. He got a lot of the issues we're having east of the river and in Ward 7, even in Ward 8. And one of the things that he talked about was his relationship with the mayor's office, his relationship with many of the other council members. And one of the things he suggested is that he would be able to reach across the aisle, talk to the other council members, and make sure that projects that needed to be done and that have been long overdue in Ward 7, that he would ask other council members to put your agendas on hold, to put whatever you want or whatever your desires on hold, and to put all of the finances, most of the finances, should I say, the necessary finances, together and take care of east of the river first. So
Of course
is that something that you would be willing to do?
Am I going to put the entire city on hold for Ward 7? No. Am I going to advocate for Ward 7? Absolutely. I'd be just trying to placate like Wendell is with that message. And I like Wendell. I've met Wendell. But saying that realistically, council members who are specifically representing one ward are going to put down representing that ward on behalf of one of the 8? No. Shift focus and put more attention? Yes, absolutely, 100%. And Ward 7 absolutely needs it. I didn't grow up walking on Minnesota Avenue, right? Brooke Pinto was doing these walks in October, and I went out and joined. I walked from Greenway Liquors. First, I actually got there early. I sat down at Greenway Liquors at 3700 Minnesota, and I met a friend who is now I probably chatted with him 15 times now, right? But when I sat down there, when I went on that walk, I realized that I needed to up my game and I needed to up my knowledge. You need to know every single ward, and you need to know it inside and out and well. So I started walking on Minnesota Avenue every week. And yes, we need to put a lot of attention to 7, and I need to get out in more of 7. But by taking my little microcosm of walking, I haven't been there now in about probably a month and a half, but there was a solid, 4 or 5 months where I was there every week, and I'm dying. I need to get back to walking there every week. But the first time I walked on Minnesota Avenue after that by myself, I was afraid. I was scared. And then as I walked week after week after week, I developed a relationship, with a bunch of different people. And I'm, now I understand the strength of the communities and the connections in the communities. But you can't do that, sitting in an office space, or going to a meeting inside of a housing complex. You can't do that when you have an entourage around you at all times. Even if I bring one person with me, it's a totally different experience than if I just walk by myself. But that's a long narrative to answer. Yeah, absolutely. I understand that Ward 7 needs, and I'm not going to use an expletive, but a lot of attention, and it deserves a lot of attention.
Yeah. Starting to not today, I believe it was yesterday, our minimum wage went up to $17.50, and I believe it's the highest in the nation. Yet we have a crisis on hand when it comes to our unhoused population. And myself personally, I can barely afford to live in this city. So what do you plan to bring to the table? What do you think are solutions? And how do you feel like you being on the council would make a difference in this particular aspect?
Right. Yeah, well, under $40,000 is not a livable wage in this city. That being said, I don't know what I could do to change and increase the minimum wage from $17.50 an hour, right? Again, we have to be reasonable with what can get done. But when I'm outside my window here, I don't know if you can see North Capitol Street. But, you know, I'm right here, just like how I walk down Minnesota Avenue. I'm a couple doors down from, you know, iconic landmark Big Ben Liquors here at the corner of New York Avenue and North Capitol. And by being here, just by being here, I develop relationships and I understand what's going on with our homeless population and our impoverished population. Every Tuesday, we're out here, and this is part of the solution. I'm going to say, if we can't increase minimum wage, even if we increase it to $18.50, you know, still people are going to be struggling. 20 people are going to be struggling with inflation, right? So we bring out the council member's office, ANCs, faith leadership, nonprofits like some, Department of Behavioral Health, as many organizations as we can, not just to connect with the people that are on the street that need help, but for those organizations to connect with each other. That's the more important aspect of it. We can have all the programs we want in the city, right? So first off, they need to be able to talk to each other. And if you need health service, if you need to know where to get food, if you need to know about housing, and I don't do all of that, but I have a friend that does, and I can text that friend, I can pick up the phone, or maybe I even have an app that really communicates that well. Then we get into trouble because our apps are probably not going to be good for a long time, but I'll push for that. But first we need to get the communication going. But on top of that, maybe first is really just getting the programs to function, right? So 3 days ago or 2 days, whatever it was, when ERAP opened up, when I'm on hold for 4.5 hours testing out the program to see if I can get through and nobody picks up, that's a problem. When I called in October and the phone line was down, that's a problem. I applied after 10 minutes for my neighbor. Initially, I was trying to help my neighbor. I never got a response. I was never told that the program was opening back up in January. In January, when the program opened up, the phone line was down and the website was down. I didn't try this last, I think it was April. I don't know what I had going on and I didn't try, but when I tried this week, I had that 4.5 hour wait. I was publicizing it on social media, which is something different that I'm bringing to the table too. I'm really trying to increase my presence so people actually know who their council members are and people who aren't paying attention to politics, which is a big swath of our city. A lot of people are not paying attention. I grew up here. I didn't pay attention. I didn't know what an ANC commissioner was until I became one. I was focused on a lot of other things, and a lot of people are focused on other things too, even though we should be focusing on our front yards instead of Pennsylvania Avenue over there, like everybody wants to comment on ad nauseum when, you know, there's only so much that matters. But it's about getting these programs working, these platforms working. So ERAP, not working, right? We can get it.
Just to interject to the ERAP. I mean, I thought it was pretty funny that the mayor said people are gaming the system and stealing the ERAP monies. How are they supposed to do that if they can't even get into the portal?
That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
Also, I wanted to point out, I'm glad, Reverend Campbell, you brought up the minimum wage, right? So $17.50 an hour times 8 hours a day times 5 days a week times 50 weeks a year. Guess how much that is? $35,000 a year. Yet, and when we're talking about policies and programs, and this is the big rub around affordability, DC sets its pool of affordable IZ units for folks making minimally $55,000 a year. I just want to put that out there. Yay, okay, 50 cents more. We're at $35,000.
That's why I'm here.
You can't qualify for an affordable unit.
I need the numbers, and you know, that's why I'm having a conversation with someone like yourself. You know, when I look at our programs, and we have all these programs that offer food, but people don't know how to get them, right? So do we have an ability to do our DoorDash and Uber Eats and all of that different stuff for people who need food? You know, there's rich people who can afford to have DoorDash and Uber Eats delivered every day because they don't want to go out and pick up their groceries. They don't want to go out and get food. But we have people who are struggling. You know, I could go off on tangents. I always try to relate, like, say, drug addiction, right? You have somebody in a house who doesn't understand someone on the street who's struggling with drug addiction. Yet that person, and I can be guilty of this at times too, when it gets past 8 or 9 o'clock at night, if I let my willpower break and I grab a cookie, I'm probably going to eat the whole darn package, right? But then these people that are also our neighbors, our friends, our brothers, our sisters, I've had personal, you know, connections with people who struggle with drugs. That's a whole nother ball game. Now you're trying to find where to get food. Now you're trying to be at one place on one day at one specific time without transportation. We have a lot of food programs in the city, but they're not necessarily well coordinated, well.
Have we lost connection?
Did we lose you, Kevin? I think we
Reverend Mike. Well, what a session. You know, I'm really happy you hosted this one on McMillan, and I just want to give my shout outs and rest in peace to Bertha Holiday, who challenged the poor door issue in the affordable part of the complex that will have a door right next to the luxury part of the complex in McMillan. And I also want to shout out to Senator James McMillan and a shout out to Frederick Law Olmsted. And to Bertha Holiday. I saw Kevin's back.
Frederick Law Olmsted Jr.
The junior, yep.
But I guess to Papa too, because I mean he produced Junior. So
yeah, I mean
started the whole thing. But they didn't like acknowledgments was their thing. They, you know, so they
he did remind me of something that I did want to remind people. If you have a child that is a DC student, should I say, at least 5 years old, and it goes at least to pre-K, there is a program where every child in DC is getting $120 loaded on a card as a food benefit for the summer. So if you have children, if you're a guardian of a child, if you know parents of children who may not be informed, please inform them. Every single child at least 5 years old and that are at least in pre-K in the city of Washington, D.C. does qualify. I believe it is income-based, but for the most part does qualify for the $120 EBT benefit for food for that student. So we don't want any in our city hungry. So we did want to put that out there.
Yeah, and there's also there's so many different programs. They're not well communicated. The farmers market, I have to wrap my head around exactly how that works and which markets it applies to. But for some of them, I know your benefits are double at those markets.
Yep. Your SNAP benefits. Some of the markets cover SNAP benefits. Yep.
All right. Also, please practice heat safety per our office. Our executives, our council members are also echoing the message. But it is extremely, the heat is very extreme. So we want everyone to be safe. Learn about your safe zones. Learn about places you can go if you don't have AC at home. Places you can go to get AC and to be safe. If you have any questions, you can always contact myself. You can always send us an email at peoplesvoicedc@gmail.com. But I did want you all to be aware of what's going on outside. I mean, my personal opinion, as you guys know, when I ran for office, I do believe that our streets downtown and some uptown should be covered with cool seal and to reduce our heat temperatures. I do believe that our buildings should all be covered in green to reduce our temperature. So that's one of my issues and fights that I always have. Our show has about 5 minutes left. And so I wanted to give you, Kevin, a few moments for some last words. Let everyone know how they can support you and anything you might want to say.
Sorry, my mic wasn't on. So I don't know if you could read my lips, but first off, I wanted to thank you guys. Hour is absolutely not enough for all of the information that you both have and all of the effort and work that you're doing. And I think we are, despite what a lot of people, for whatever reason, would believe, I think we're aligned on a lot of issues, and we're working on making DC a better place, very simply. Here's that's my little logo. I guess it's backwards on there, but it's Wrap the Vote. I'm running for DC Council at Large. You can see me at rapthevote.com or rapdc.com, RAPP, like Peter. But follow me on Instagram or social media. I do respond to all of the comments as much as I can. I do respond to direct messages. That's the difference that I'm looking to bring to the table, is to have conversations with people from every single ward, from every single circumstance, from on the street to the penthouse and everything in between. I look at people in their eyes, and that's how I communicate. I'm not looking at exteriors and other things in their eyes and I listen to their words too. And even when they're aggressive words, I am constantly focusing on, I've had some very aggressive words levied at me, as I think a lot of us have. But you keep the mentality that it's not always about yourself when those attacks are coming your way. A lot of times it's about the person on the other side. And if you can just listen, maybe not on that day, but maybe on another day, you'll be able to come to a common ground and get some understanding and move forward. So that's what we're trying to do. And I am so glad we had this conversation, because listening to your guys' last podcast, there were so many good nuggets in there, and just being able to continue the relationship and move forward. We're not going to agree on everything. We're not, absolutely. But we definitely, from what I see, are going to agree on a lot more than we disagree. And we're going to move DC forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
I just want to put this post up because personally, say thank you for this post. Most of us can see it, but it basically is saying everything that you just said. My number one slogan, everyone knows my slogan, hashtag Together DC Can. It's all about unity. It's all about working together, finding a compromise, finding that common ground, but working in peace and unity and harmony. So I definitely appreciate this post and your perspectives. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
I thought Chris had something to say.
Well, it sounds fluffy, but the issue is it should be simple, but it's not, because we're not doing it. We're not.
Happy 4th of July, everybody.
Absolutely. Don't forget. You can see the Washington Monument from McMillan, so it should be nice.
All right, guys. Like always, I like to end the show with a little DC swag. And here we go with my very favorite go music. Goodbye.
Summer. Get ready for summer. It's nothing like summer. I've been cooped up too long. I just wanna be free. The summertime is calling me. Cruising riding around downtown in DC. The forecast said the temp will be 80s all week. Now if you feel like I feel, then you know what I mean. When I say we're long overdue for hitting them scenes. Everything's just better in the summertime. I'm feeling fine. I'ma live my life. Summer in the city. Summertime. Cruising street, shooting. Ladies look so pretty. Take me deep, just live it. Now all the ladies looking pretty, drinking mimosas, accidentally, hair done, nails did, just cutting up in the city. Fellas driving Hot Wheels, old schools made of steel, motorcycle, dirt bike, muscle cars, chrome rims. You can taste the air, taste like summer. When good times just seem much funner, weather just better, food straight from heaven. I don't know about you, but I want summertime forever. Summer in the city. Cruising street, shooting breeze. Ladies look so pretty. Take me deep, just live it. Say what? I can't hear you. Leo, we in the summertime. Gemini. No way. Cancer. For the summertime.